What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, joined by the one, the only AC. We are here for our NFL picks against the spread for week number 9. This is the Patriots bye week, so this is a week where I'm really paying attention to the spreads. I'm really looking on who to bet on and all that stuff. Besides fantasy football, I need some other form of excitement this Sunday to look at the games and really pay attention. Obviously, I don't really need much incentive because I have a YouTube channel where all we do is talk about football. But, other than that, I want to have some fun, and I will be placing some bets this week because the last couple of weeks we haven't really been doing that. AC, I know your Eagles are playing this weekend, and you said you've really actually been straying away from the bets. Is there a reason why this year in particular, or is it just because it's unpredictable, or is it because the Eagles are just doing so well?
No, it's unpredictable. And then there was a couple times I lost on some Eagles point spreads early. I'm guessing they're only 2-1s. I did well the first week, and then I think I bet on the Eagles against KC, which they didn't cover the spread at all, and then they also didn't cover the spread against the Giants on that 61-yarder, and those were their two games. So then at that point, I just said, okay, let's not bet on the Eagles. And then I still bet here and there. I got cash. I'm positive right now in my account. But I also, it's the Eagles keep on winning, and that's enough for me. That's enough of a rush for me right now. And I still bet every game because I'm in a $200 against the spread. So I bet every game against the spread. So I'm aware of the spreads, and it still means something. But obviously, it's not single game. I can afford to lose a couple, but I bet every game against the spread. But it's a $200 all-in buy-in. If you win the week, you get $200, and then it's just a tally in 16 weeks.
All right. So, of course, how the show works, we're going to give you 4 of our favorite bets this week, and I also have 2 extras. Usually we have 1 extra that we give you, but I have 2 extras this week. I looked at the spreads. I'm actually fairly comfortable with a lot of these, and as the weeks moved on, I feel like my picks obviously have gotten a lot better. But I feel like I'm starting to get a handle of who's good, who's bad, how this team plays this, on the road, at home, the different matchups and defense, offense. So it's starting to form itself, even though the NFL, I would say, is down in quality in terms of, well, first off, there's a lot of injuries, but second, the teams just don't seem like they're as good. So there's a lot closer games, a lot more upsets. But at the same time, I think I'm starting to get a handle of that. So we're going to give you those picks. If you have any comments, make sure to leave them in the live comments or the comments after the video. If you have any questions about who you should bet on, your fantasy football lineups, any sort of questions like that, or just your teams in general, let us know.
No, and okay, I'll say something about that. I was watching Chris Carter on his show, and he was right. It was, this is a down year for the NFL. But we're more picking no one's a complete team. So you're just picking – there's going to be a team that wins the Super Bowl that doesn't do something very well. It's not like in past years where it's perfect teams win, offense, defense, come together, complete team. Now it's they were talking about the Eagles, right? And I think the Eagles, a lot of people are talking about because they're 7-1. I think if they were 6-2 and tied with the Patriots, I don't think people would be talking about the Eagles as much, but they're the only team with 1 loss. But it's one of those things. It's the Eagles have some spots, but what they do compared to the rest of the NFL is they can get away with maybe not having the best pass block right now. You know what I mean? Because they do everything so well, and they still technically are a top team that way. And he was just saying when it comes to the playoffs, the team that wins this year is going to have something that they're going to be able to maybe get away with, and it's not going to be like most years where we've seen complete NFL championship caliber football teams.
No, I agree with you, and I even saw it last year. Last year, the reason why I was so confident as a Patriots fan is because I felt like the Patriots were the only team that was complete on both sides of the ball. They could move the ball, they could stop the other team, and I felt like Atlanta was an amazing offense, but their defense was skeptical at times, right? Pittsburgh had a few good players on offense. Their defense, their secondary particularly, wasn't very good. Dallas had a really good offense. Defense wasn't very good. So all the teams I thought last year were sort of the same. I would say that last year was even better in terms of the quality of teams, and the Packers only had 1 player, basically. So, looking at those teams last year, it's sort of the same. I just think maybe a tier down from that. And right now, I don't see one team that's head and shoulders above, even with the Eagles at 7-1. You don't see a team that's, okay, top 5 offense, top 5 defense, unstoppable team. So
yeah, but
I
you are still seeing like what Chris Carter's point is that with those teams like the Eagles, the Patriots, even with the Patriots, like defense problems, right? Like it's like they're still, even if they're missing that defense, they're still better than that middle tier that is around 500 right now. You know what I mean? Even with not playing good defense, they're still above that because they can do everything else better to be better than those teams that probably have a little less going on.
At least they have one unit that's really good.
Exactly. Like you can get away this year. It's showing with not being good at one of the facets. Like, and I'm saying that the Eagles' last couple of weeks is, Carson Wentz is one of the most hit quarterbacks or most hurried quarterbacks in the league, but he's still able to get it done. And it might not be consistent, but they're finding ways to get around, even though he's getting hit a bunch of times.
I want to say hi to Skip Bayless in the comments. Rob's also in the comments, and Little Camo is in the comments. I'm not sure we're going to be talking about the Packers game, so we might as well. Oh, yeah, we will. Yeah, we will. Never mind. We will be talking about that game, so we'll get to that. All right. AC, what is your first bet of the week? And this isn't in any order of, okay, this is my best bet of the week, but this is your first bet.
Yeah, like I like them all. There's probably, out of my 4, there's probably one that I'm not as comfortable with the rest, but I'll start off with Baltimore plus 3.5 in Tennessee. I do think Baltimore getting their weapons back, and it's tough to base it just on that one game, but if you put that one game against Miami, the blowout, and then you add that with the first 2 games of the season, their defense is playing a lot better than it did in those games that they lost. Their offense is keeping them in it. Flacco seems to be playing a bit better, and then they got their receivers somewhat healthy that he actually has people to throw the ball to. And we've talked about this before. I was somewhat sold on Tennessee because I do like Mariota, but it's proving that he can't move the ball as much as maybe people think. If you look at that run game, yes, it was somewhat powerful last season, at times this season, but that kind of has gone, like, no one's really talking about that anymore. That run game's kind of taken a dip. Obviously, I think Murray's hurt a bit, and I don't think Henry can be a 3-down back and rush the ball a bunch. You know what I mean? Like, he's a LeGarrette Blount for the rest of his career.
I think so.
You need to have a nice 3rd-down receiver and, or maybe even a 3rd-down running back. You need to have a couple running backs. But I just think Baltimore is a team now that they can beat this Tennessee team. And I think they've been playing as more of a complete team. And what I like about this, they might not win, but with 3.5, I think this is going to be a field goal game. So I think I can win either way, because with that 3.5, as long as there's not a safety or something, I think that Baltimore can at least cover.
Yeah, I have the same bet as you. I think we have a lot of the same ones, so it's just going to be me reiterating kind of what you say. But just to add to that, I just think, like, Baltimore, you look at what they did against the run game of Miami. They pretty much shut down Jay Ajayi, that run game last week. And Tennessee maybe at times could run the football a little bit, but I think with Brandon Williams in there, we've seen that the Ravens defense has been very good against the run when they need to be against running football teams. They have given up a lot of yardage per game in that category, but that was without the big man in the middle. So with them, they're a lot better. And then I look at, like, the pass game for Tennessee. Like you said, they will have Corey Davis back, which will be interesting to see how he impacts the passing game. But I have never been sold on Marcus Mariota when it comes to passing the ball down the field. I think Baltimore has been a really underrated secondary this year. And I think that they won't really have too much of an issue with that. And then you look at the other side, and Baltimore is playing. They know who they are, and they're playing that style well. I think Collins has been playing unreal. He leads the league in yards per carry. The Tennessee defense is not very good, in my opinion. And I think that Flacco will find, they'll run the ball probably like 30 times, 20 with Collins, 10 with Allen. Then they'll work that play action boot that they love with Flacco, and they'll be able to get some plays down the field, I think, against the secondary that's given up a lot of big plays. So I agree with you. I think Baltimore is the better, more complete team in this sense. And I have them plus 3.5 as well, even though it is on the road. I think Tennessee is a team that is 4-3, more based off of the teams that they've played, not necessarily because they are a 4-3 team.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Baltimore too, they're 4-4 on the season, which is decent enough, even against the spread, right? And then Tennessee is, I think they have a losing record against the spread. And the one thing I'll say is I know who I've been impressed with that I think you can argue after Marshawn Lattimore. Marlon Humphrey has been one of the better rookies. Yeah. And this was a rookie class where obviously it was like Quincy Wilson. There was the guy that I'm blanking somewhat. Yeah, Sidney Jones, but Sidney Jones is injured and he's going to be back in 3 weeks and it's going to be awesome. We're going to have we have a defensive line rotation. And we're going to – how about Jalen Mills, though, if we're talking DBs, man? 7th-round draft pick, the Green Goblin. But anyways, besides the point, he's not a rookie. I just think Marlon Humphrey's playing really well on opposite of Jimmy Smith. And I think if we saw problems with Baltimore last year, it was their defensive backs because Smith was injured. They use their first-round pick on Marlon Humphrey, who's a great corner, and it's just starting to mesh. Plus, they get Jefferson. You could argue that Brandon Carr. You could argue right now they have one of the better secondaries in the NFL easily. And
Eric Weddle. Yeah, they're pretty good. Okay. I guess my bet that I think we have like almost the same bets, but I have 2 extra. So I'm gonna go with the next one. I was fairly confident with this one is the Rams -4 against the Giants. This is in New York, which it's in New York. But I look at the Rams, they're coming off a bye, which in a way, like a lot of people feel like the bye is an advantage, but like the bye isn't an advantage to me. Maybe with certain coaches it is, but like in the modern day NFL with the ability to practice and not practice and you aren't ready for the physical game anymore after that bye. Now that's speaking a negative side, but besides that, I'm confident in this matchup. I think Sean McVay has been able to whatever defense he's played this year, he's been able to figure out a scheme to beat this defense. He has a lot of familiarity with Spagnuolo's defense because he played in that division. You've seen all the different stuff that they've been able to do. And not a lot of people are really talking about Todd Gurley is the machine of this team. He is an MVP candidate. Goff, if the Rams came out and said like the Jaguars did, where we're not going to put the ball in Goff's hands, because if you look at Goff, he doesn't throw the ball a ton. I mean, he throws the ball probably like 20 times a game, maybe a little bit more than Blake Bortles, but this is a running team, and I think they'll be able to do that on this defense. And then like they have all those weapons, they'll be able to move the ball. Defensively, I think that defensive line with Aaron Donald is going to be able to get after Eli. They've shown inconsistencies in that department, and they don't have a ton of receivers to really stress out that secondary of the Rams. The Rams defense has been playing a lot better, and I think with the bye week, something that will help the Rams coming out of that bye week is Wade Phillips figuring out, okay, this is our weakness on defense. How can we cover that up, and how can we, bring our strengths and really take that to the next level? Because Wade Phillips, I do believe, is one of the better defensive coaches. So I think that the Rams, overall, they're a team that's going to the playoffs right now. I think they're on the road to the playoffs, and they're a much better overall team right now than the Giants. I just don't have any trust in the Giants to make this game very close. You saw them give up against the Seahawks. I think that the Rams do win this one, at least by a touchdown here.
Yeah, no, I have that same pick, Rams -4. Yes, I think the reason with the Giants at home is the reason why, if you look at this at the beginning, you would think, how are the Rams not favored by more? But we've been seeing the spreads being favoriting the home team just a bit. But yeah, the Giants don't have much. And I think, if anything, that defense, if they were playing a crappier defense, the Giants might be able to get something going. And then we look on the Giants' defensive side, no Janoris Jenkins, their best defensive player, in my opinion. And then you look at the Rams. We were talking about corners earlier, and I think Trumaine Johnson is one of the most underrated corners in the league. He's not maybe underrated anymore, but he's been just since he's gone in the league. Like, he's just was from Montana, a late round pick. Since he's been in the league,
he was underrated until in that contract.
No, true, but he's still like, it's not like we talk about Trumaine Johnson as an elite corner. Like, maybe
he's good.
He's good.
He's a number one corner.
Yeah, and I just like and he went to Montana. My buddy played with him at Montana there. But yeah, Rams -4, and this is a game that the Rams need to win. But the only thing I'd be worried about is with the weird NFL, this also is a game that the Rams could lose. But saying that, the Rams haven't really lost to an opponent that they should have beat. You know what I mean? They've won all the games that they should win, which I do like, because obviously that Redskins were kind of hot at the beginning of the season a bit. You know what I mean? Like against week 2 they played, right? After coming off a loss to the Eagles. And that was only with a fourth quarter Cousins drive. So, yeah, it's Rams -4. I think that's one of the better bets of the day.
All right, what's your next bet?
My next one, we'll save the Detroit Green Bay because I think we both have that. But this one I don't have. This is one you don't have. I'm taking Oakland -3 against Miami in Miami. Miami does play good at home.
Explain this to me, because I actually picked Miami to win the game straight up. So you may change my thinking, but go ahead.
I've done this before. I think with what's going on in the AFC, like with Denver going down, and I think they just got unlucky against the Bills team. I think they probably stayed out on the East Coast, if I'm not mistaken.
They did.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of travel. That might kind of change things up. But after you get your ass kicked against the Buffalo Bills, who we showed maybe the Bills aren't that great from that game on Thursday.
Or maybe the Jets are.
Yeah, maybe. I just think Oakland has a lot to prove in this game. And for Miami, I think they just traded a running back, and everyone, is going on Drake and Williams or whoever it's going to be, and that could change things up a bit for them. I just think that this is a must-win game for Oakland. And if Cutler's back, if Moore,
Cutler I saw against back. I'm positive he is.
That could help them a bit. But Cutler with some time off, I don't think comes back. I think what we saw when Miami started winning games with Cutler was that he started to get a little bit more comfortable because he got to play through it. But then all of a sudden you just don't play for about 2.5 weeks. Then he comes back in. I think Oakland's going to have a lot to prove, and I'm not too sold on that Miami defense. And I think Carr and Cooper could maybe get back to that game against the Chiefs of how they played.
Sure. I don't know. I can't, I think the Raiders are not good. I just think everybody thinks the Raiders are good, but they're just not. I don't know, how to really explain that, but
no, but this also is a game too that it's 3 points, and now what do you think of Miami? You know what I mean? It's it's a 3-point spread.
I think Miami's played the better football this year, though.
Potentially. I just think you're only as good as your last game sometimes in this league, right?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting game, though, because I think both teams, I'm not touching this game. I didn't bet on this. I'm not betting on this game regardless. But I just think, it's hard to judge because both of these teams got blown out. And then I looked at the schedule, I believe, for Miami, and I'm pretty sure that they've been a lot more successful at home from when I looked at it. But I don't know. I just think Jay Cutler being back, that Oakland secondary, I think this game is going to turn out to be a shootout, and I'd rather take the home team. But if you're confident enough in the Raiders, I don't really see, I'm not really going to argue against you because, like I said, I have no idea. I just went with the home team in the straight up picks. So.
Yeah, no, we'll see what happens. I just think that there's some issues going on in Miami more so, and obviously Oakland hasn't played well, but I still think that locker room are behind each other, and they know what they did last season, and I think they can get it back to that level.
Okay, let's get to the comments real quick, and then we'll we'll finish off the rest of our picks. Little Camo says, "What do you think about the Packers game?" We'll get to that. Skip Bayless says, "Sup guys? Let me say the Eagles are going to be 7-9.
Yeah, no, it's funny with the Eagles because it's the first time really that everyone's talking about them, right? I've been a fan for 20 years. This is the most I've heard of just NFL fans in general talking about my team when normally no one really cares. No one normally cares. And going into this season, yeah, I said 10-6, and everyone was just like, you guys were like 9-7. Most of you didn't even say make the playoffs, right? So it's like we already are doing better. And now that we're in this NFL bubble of talking heads,
and that's not to say I picked them. I think I picked them 9-7, but that's not to say that I didn't think that they had the capability of going to the playoffs. If I knew that Carson Wentz was going to take the jump that he did, I would have said for sure they would make the playoffs. But that's the thing about before the season. You don't know.
No, and I just think too is like I don't think they're overrated, but I do think that being 7-1 and being the best team in the NFL and probably being the only team that hasn't had a stinker this season, we're getting a lot of people to be like, oh, they're not great. And obviously you've been there. All eyes are against you in a way because everyone likes to go against what's on top. So I understand it. And the way we play, it's weird when we watch. It's like the defense sometimes gets pressure, but sometimes doesn't. And it's more like bend, not break. We'll give up tons of yards, but we'll get a big play with the offense and like our third down conversion. So like all that put together, yeah, they might be overrated, but I enjoy watching them week by week. And I think as long as we get into playoffs, I think it's a win for this team and this franchise because you have to think about it too. This is only the second year of our rebuild, right? New coach, new quarterback. It's our second year. And we still have a couple more years with this defense. We have some good young pieces, some veteran pieces, but most of them are young. So it's like, for me, I look at this as like we're already winning. And yes, a Super Bowl is the goal, but I just don't think we're as good as our record, and I don't think we're as good.
You don't think you're there as good as their record, so you don't think they're the best team in the league.
No, I'll still give it to the Patriots just because I'm thinking what's going to happen in the playoffs. We don't know what Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson have never been to the playoffs. Like this is so unknown.
Do you think that you need to see the Eagles play better teams?
A little bit, but I think
because they've only played the Chiefs and they lost.
What I would say is I would like them to see them play better defenses.
Well, they play in the Broncos this week, so how about that?
No, and I think that's great, and I think we'll get to. I think you have that one pick, which I won't disagree with. But it's going to be interesting to see because I do think our defense can play against top-notch offenses because without Odell, Dez has taken a step back. I think you can get to Ben. Like I'm talking about top receivers, which I think was our problem last year. I think we're better equipped to defend top receivers, which I always was scared about last year because of our corners, which is our only really issue on that defense right now.
Do you think that I don't know, like this is just a question, but do you think the fact that the Eagles have only really played like one, they've only really played, okay, so who'd they play? They've only really played like one top 10 team, right? And that was the Chiefs?
Yeah, they played the Chiefs, but you could say, but you love the Redskins. Those are two big wins against a division opponent.
No, those are good wins. But I mean, are you at all concerned that the only real top 10 team they played was the Chiefs and they lost?
Yeah, but that was turnovers. We easily could have won that game.
Okay.
Like if you watch that,
question. It's not like
no. If you watch that game, like Darren Sproles fumbled on a punt return. There was a batted ball interception. Like there was just some shitty shit that went wrong. And what can you do? I still think the way we're playing, regardless, is some of these teams.
I guess they played the Panthers. That was borderline good win.
Yeah, that was And at the time, people were saying Panthers were top. Was a good win. And then I'll just say too, the one thing I do like is most of the bad teams we've played, though, we've blown them out.
Yeah, that's
besides
good.
The Chargers, right? Like
nobody pulls the Chargers out.
No, I know, and we won barely. Actually, I think they scored late, and then they got the ball back and couldn't score. But then, but most of the bad teams, and even in our worst performance, which I thought was last week against the 49ers, offensively, we still won by 30 points or 20 points or whatever it was, right? So everything's looking good. Week by week, we'll see. But I'm not ready to crown. I'm not one to be like we're winning the Super Bowl. In 20 years of watching the Eagles, I've seen all this before. Maybe haven't seen a rookie like this because my kind of start was the beginning of McNabb year, and McNabb hit the ground running, but nothing near to what Carson Wentz is doing.
Rob asks, is Vance Joseph one and done if Paxton Lynch fails?
I don't know. They'll give him another year. I don't know if you could just.
I don't know either. I think the fact that they don't have a quarterback will allow him to have another year.
I think that ESPN announcer too just like killed his career. I can't look at that guy anymore and not think about whatever that guy's name was.
What was the quote again?
What was the guy's name though?
Vance Joseph loves playing or loves.
Yeah, no, but does someone know what the guy's name is in the comments? What was that guy's name? I'll know it right away. But I just every time I see him now, I'm like, Vance Joseph loves football. He is having the time of his life. Like just every time I look at him now, I just think of that. And I think it's killed his career. If anything kills his career, I think it's this kid.
Skip Bayless as fact or fiction. Bradley McDougall is going to take Earl Thomas's job. Fiction. Yeah, somebody said Thomas is regressing despite the fact that he had an interception last week. Skip
Sergio Dip or something.
Sergio Dip. Yeah. Sounds like a DJ. Skip says fact or fiction. Redskins will go to the playoffs. I think we've answered that. Fiction.
Yeah, now
fiction now. I think last week.
Yeah, they needed to.
Last week was the deciding game. I think they're now going to be out. What else we got? Skip says Pats are going 12-4. I love Tom Brady, but that defense, OMG, I'll pray for you guys. Thank you, Skip. I know you're a big Brady fan. And actually, I made a bold statement in the DMs. I said the Patriots won't lose another game. So that's bold.
Potentially.
We'll see. I think the big test is in Pittsburgh. I think it's week 14, I think.
Yeah.
Also play the Bills twice, so that'll be interesting.
But the only problem is, too, it's like, you probably get this. It's like, and the Chiefs have gotten it. Like, all the good teams that we used to like or used to somewhat like what they were doing gets this. Like, as soon as the Patriots lose even one game, people are going to be talking crap. As soon as the Eagles lose one game, people are going to be talking crap. It's just the way it is. I think Kevin.
Oh, it's the extreme with the Patriots.
I think Kevin, like, since they were 2-1, is just like, let's see what happens when they lose, and he's obviously going to be right at some point.
Kevin is that guy.
No, but if you say it every week, when it does happen, you're going to be right, but you're not going to. No one's going to remember that you said it every single week until it did happen. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like
Kevin is that guy. He is that guy. Like, he is that media member. Whereas, like, the sky is falling when one of these teams loses a game. Like, that's Kevin.
Exactly. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But just having fun week by week.
Week by week.
Exactly.
Skip says, okay, Texans are going 7-9. Watson is out for this. I don't even know if they're going to go 7-9. I'm just going to be honest. Bodo says more like 0-8 the rest of the season. Rob says fact or fiction, Niners get their first win tomorrow. I said fact. So how about that?
Yeah, I actually picked that too.
Yeah, I hope so. Then Jimmy can come in. Skip says, I got the Hawks going 14-2. That would mean they're not losing another game, right?
Yes, and the one thing is, we did look at the Hawks schedule, and they do have a tough schedule. You know what?
It's tough. If they do have a lot of games at home, which helps.
If they go 14-2, I think they're going to go. If they go 14-2, they're obviously easily the best team in the NFC and the favorite,
and probably the NFL.
Yeah, true.
14-2. I think they'll go like 12-4. I think, but we'll see. I'd have to look at their schedule, but a lot of their games are at home. So, what else? Rams 9-7. So not a believer in the Rams. Steelers Nation says Lions are underrated. I think you could argue the Lions are underrated based off who they've played and some of the games that they should have won that they didn't win. I guess you could argue that the Lions are underrated. I think the Lions, if I haven't exactly looked at their schedule, but if they win some of those games against some of the easier opponents, they could still make the playoffs. I think they're in the range of doing that. Jeremy says Chiefs versus Eagles, Super Bowl.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that the Chiefs are regressing big time, in my opinion. It's almost like they used up all their strategy already.
Yeah, It does seem like that. It seemed like their best strategic game was week 1.
Well, yeah, no, and they look good every set. Like there's some good plays,
They've looked good, but I mean,
Hill
like,
is good, and Justin Houston. You could make a case that he's the defensive player of the year. Their corners and their secondary is still doo-doo. But the thing with the Chiefs is, I think we did talk about it, but that losing an outside receiver just killed them. I think because you can't. Who's the other guy now? Like Wilson, who's more even a slot,
Robinson, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not the same. And I think
I think he's like 68 overall in Madden.
And Conley at least like has been in this system for like 3 years. Like he knew what it was built around Conley just it was built around the other guys in a way, because he was that piece that was always on the field with everyone making plays.
Bodo says NFL has 4 good teams, 24 average teams, and 4 bad teams. Who are the 4 good teams is my question. Jeremy says Jets should be 7-2 this season.
Yeah, they could be.
But that's why we call the Jets the 50-minute team.
Well, but that's the thing too. It's like,
wow, there's a lot of comments.
Buffalo plays some good teams and wins, or some good running teams. They have the best running defense, and then they let the Jets, who haven't ran well all game. It's like that's what's bizarre about this year.
That's
like
the NFL.
You look at the stats.
Matt Forte.
You wouldn't think that would happen whatsoever.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Miami is a mess, says Bodo. Skip says Atlanta Falcons going 10-6. Matt Ryan is still the MVP. Steelers Nation says Eagles are overrated. Rob says fact or fiction, Winston gets benched for Fitzpatrick tomorrow. Well, Winston would only get benched if he's injured. What's up, guys? Says Kill 'em Boys. What's up, Kill 'em Boys? Arian's back in the chat with his ridiculous jokes. Skip is a new sub. Thanks, Skip. Broncos secondary is a mess, says Bodo. Are you sure about that, Bodo?
The one thing I did say this on the run. I think they're still good, but I think Talib is.
They're not as good as the Jags, but they're like second best.
But I'm just saying Talib has lost a step.
They're still really good.
I think they're still very good, but like how old's Talib now? He's got to be
under. No, he's right on that edge where he lost a little bit of a step. I don't think, because last year I think he was the best corner in the league. This year I think he's like top 10, but he's not like
and I think since they lost, I don't know. I think that secondary can be beat though. I think we've seen enough longish plays against that team that they can be taken out, especially if their offense can't move the ball and they're on the field so much. That was the good thing about those days with Peyton Manning. It's like they could move the ball and they would have long drives, so then they could rest up. But any defense is not going to be as good as we've seen it when they're on the field for, close to 60% of the game.
Killing Boy says Chiefs 27-24. Lions 26-23, Raiders 28-25. Somebody said, who said it? Damn it. Oh, Killing Boy says, AC, you an honest man, not biased Eagles fan. You've been trying to tell me.
Yeah, I was like, I've been trying to tell him. I was like, I just see how it is. I know that, I don't see 7-1. I just look at the team, and it's great we're winning. But at the end of the day, it's like I need to see this team in the playoffs and just keep moving forward. I don't care if they lose as long as the effort's there. I feel like a coach.
Skip says Seahawks versus Pats, Super Bowl 52. That was my preseason prediction, so hopefully. Steelers Nation says I'm calling it Steelers versus Saints Super Bowl. Could happen. Fact or fiction, Cardinals signed Kirk Cousins in the offseason.
I don't even think you would want to go. That defense is still decent, but you'd probably lose Fitzgerald, but you have David Johnson back.
Do you think Fitzgerald would sign with another team next year, or do you think he would just retire?
I don't know, but we've just seen it not work as well. Like, it was just bizarre seeing Andre Johnson.
Like, let's say he decided and he was like, okay, I have one more year left. and let's say he's still a pretty good player, and he's like, I want to win a Super Bowl. Do you think he would do that or no?
Yeah, he might. He might. Yeah, like if he thinks he can still play, but then again, like if they sign Kirk Cousins, maybe he does stay around.
Well,
Like
yeah,
if that happened.
What else? Ultra wants our. I think he wanted our top 5 power rank. Oh, his top 5 power ranking. Sorry, 1 Eagles, 2 Patriots, 3 Steelers, 4 Chiefs, 5 Seahawks. Now he's going on and on. 6 Rams, 7 Saints, 8 Vikings.
Yeah. I'd still like. Okay, if we're looking, obviously it's hard not to have the Eagles.
I
right
would
now.
put the Vikings and the Saints ahead of the Rams. And I would probably have the Seahawks ahead of the Chiefs. But I'm actually going to be making a power rankings video tonight. So it'll be coming out soon. What would your top 10 be, AC, before we get back to our picks?
Top 10? Like, you'd still have to put Eagles just because of how they played. But I'm still thinking that because of their history, because of what they can do, I still put the Patriots ahead of the Eagles. Just because it's easy to do. Like, it's not easy to do that, but like, I don't care how they've played. The Patriots still can get it done every single way. And the Eagles have been winning the same way, which is it's good. But I think you get more character being able to win. You see a lot more about a team. You can tell a team is good with how many different ways they can win games. And yes, like people hate on the Patriots and be like, oh, their defense stinks. But like all of a sudden, sometimes their offense isn't doing well and they'll just win like a solid football game where it's not like their defense is playing crazy.
Well, the last couple of weeks, it's been weird because like the Patriots are still first in yardage in the NFL, but they're like 7th in points for offense, I think, because the last 2 weeks, all they've done is kicked field goals.
Yeah.
Like they'll go down the field, like, and it's weird because people are now like Patriots fans are now like, oh, the offense is struggling, but they're playing the same. They're just not putting it in the end zone these last couple of weeks. And their defense has stepped up where they've only been giving up like 13 points a game. So it's kind of like now their defense is playing well and their offense is still moving the ball, but they're not quite scoring as many points. Can they put that together? And that's like the question, right? Can they put when they were scoring 31 points and now giving up 13 in the same game? That's what I want to see as a fan.
Yeah. I'll give credit to the Vikings. I think they're up there. I would have to like think about it. It's probably a waste of time to do it right now, but I have the Vikings up there. I have the Saints up there. Obviously I have the Chiefs still up there. I have the Steelers still up there. Yeah, obviously the Hawks.
And I ask you this every week, but Seahawks, Saints, or Vikings, or Cowboys, who's the team that you're scared of the most?
Well, it's just tough because we haven't played the Seahawks like in a while. And I'll tell you what, I'm not that scared of Dallas.
Okay.
And I'm not really, I think that if we can put pressure on New Orleans to get Breeze uncomfortable, and I think we can do well against that defense. So we'll move those 2 teams out. And then Minnesota, I just really do like their defense. But if Keenum's playing,
Vikings could have the best defense in the league.
Yeah, their offense
is in the top 3.
But then I'd have to you'd have to say that the Seahawks are probably the team that I would be most afraid of for the NFC, just because they play defense well, and when you have Russell Wilson, who, in my opinion, obviously is the best quarterback is the best complete offense in the way they do things, and I think. Let me rephrase this. with the Eagles' defensive line, I think a pocket quarterback we don't have to worry about because we get so much pressure. But I do think Russell Wilson, because of how he can get away and extend plays, I've seen this before, that hurts the Eagles. It hurts all defenses because you can't have a guy, even if it's zone coverage or even man-to-man, you can't cover for 7 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, You need, like, the Eagles' defense works on pressure and only having to cover for like 3 or 4 seconds. But what we've seen with Wilson, he gets away, and his receivers, I don't even think are that great, in my opinion, compared to other receiving cores in the league. But they know how to do well in that offense. They know how to get open for Wilson, and then I think Wilson can get it done.
All right, let's get back to our picks. So you gave 3 of yours. I've given 2. Let's go to my third one, which is the Indianapolis Colts plus. I think it's 6.5. It might be 7 or 6. I don't know what it is right now. But what I bet on it was 6.5.
Are you done? Oh no, you're back. You're back.
I'm back. Okay. Yeah, I pulled the plug with my foot. So I have the Colts plus 6.5. I just look at this game, and without Deshaun Watson, I thought this game could have been close with Deshaun Watson, given the fact that the Houston Texans, the two last teams that they played that weren't named the Browns, they gave up 40 points. Their defense is not playing good football. I think, their secondary is not good. They haven't been able to get that same pass rush. And I understand the Colts offensive line isn't great, but they scored a lot of points on a good defense in Cincinnati. And I think the Colts have been able to move the ball. Their weaknesses have been their defense, and their weaknesses have been occasionally turnovers. But I think this game, Tom Savage isn't Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson is as important to that team without that great defense that we saw last year as an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady would be to their team. I think he's that important, and he was playing that well. And I think when you take away that guy and you put in an backup quarterback like Tom Savage, I just think it makes the game that much closer. I think the Colts have the ability to win this football game. I still have the Texans winning it, but I just don't see where the Texans are going to fully be able to take advantage of that defense with Tom Savage at quarterback. And then I think Jacoby Brissett and that offense have been playing solid ball. And I think this is a game where T.Y. Hilton goes off because that secondary won't be able to cover him. So I just think this game is going to be really close. It's going to go down to the wire. The Colts typically do well against the Texans. And I think this game will be just go down to the wire because who knows with these quarterbacks. So
yeah, and he's been playing well. I'd like it more if it was 7.5 rather than 6.5, though. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but you obviously would because this line opened up at 13.5, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, it is. It's gone down like half, but I still think that's too much. I think they're like, okay, yeah, it's down now, but like people are still betting on it, I feel, because Watson's gone. I think
true. I just still think that it's going to be close. Like I think it's a toss up, but I'm just saying I like it more if it was a full score than
I understand.
Obviously like a 7 points loses it, right? And I think it is going to be close, but I think it's going to be closer to 6.5, 7 than for you betting on Indy would like it to be, obviously.
All right. Okay. Do we want to get to our Detroit bet?
Yeah.
Okay. Explain the Detroit bet.
Okay, I think we both have Detroit -2 at Green Bay. If we look at this game, Huntley, we kind of see him a little bit, but we obviously know that defense isn't great. Detroit now, I think, with the Rodgers injury, is feeling a bit better about themselves. They've bizarre games, and this is one they should win. If I think we all were kind of on the Detroit bandwagon earlier in the season, where I was, just because of how Stafford moves the ball, but we've seen that he lacks receivers big time. And that Green Bay defense has improved, but I just don't think Huntley can get it done. And we've seen enough from Huntley, I guess, so far. It hasn't been a ton, but what we've seen hasn't been like amazing because they just can't win games. This team's not built around Huntley. It's built around Rodgers because Rodgers is the only guy you need to even be competent in the NFL, especially the NFC North. So
the thing is, AC,
this means a lot to Detroit.
Their two strengths on their team are pass protection and Aaron Rodgers. And when you don't have Aaron Rodgers, your pass protection becomes like nothing. It doesn't matter because you're trying to now run the ball. You're trying to do a different offense with Brett Hundley. You're not trying to drop back 40 times and throw the ball. So pass protection doesn't matter as much. And the other weapon is your receiving core can't get the football.
No. And they have a good receiving core, right? That would probably be the next positive on their team. And like as you said, is like, yeah, we've seen some nice running games. That one game from Taiwan Jones or whatever, but everything to do
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones, but Taiwan's was Raiders, and then he just went to another team. But everything like, even the run game was because of Aaron Rodgers, because they were scared of Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? Like everything was positive because of Aaron Rodgers. Even when he wasn't even touching the ball, it was still Aaron Rodgers is making opening up some lanes because maybe they're scared they think he's going to pass or whatnot.
It was like the Peyton Manning, Joseph Adai effect.
Yeah. Yeah. So can Hundley surprise people? Yes, because I don't think he's that horrible. I do think he is
he's okay.
One of the better backups. He hasn't played a lot, but I do think being in that system, and we've seen with McCarthy, the backups have done well. Maybe they don't win, but they do enough.
Hey, look at Matt Flynn.
Matt Flynn made all the money in Seattle, right? And then Russell Wilson came in, and he just still made his money, which was fine for him. He just became a backup again. But yeah, no, it's tough. And Detroit needs to win this game. Their defense is good enough. It hasn't really shown that lately, but it's good enough to stop.
Play good against the Steelers for the most part.
Yeah. Well, and two, it's like if they can just score in the red zone, they're going to win, right? Like if the same thing happens, they're going to lose to most teams every time. It's pretty crazy that they were still in the game by missing all those
against the top 5 team,
against a great team, right? So, and their defense, like you said, played well against a top flight Pittsburgh offense. -2, it's a field goal would cover. Worst case for me, I think that's what happens. I don't think this is going to be anywhere near close to a 2-point spread. And a field goal covers, I'm comfortable with that. So looking at it, I think Detroit's the right bet. And I guess out of all these games, I would probably put Rams. I would probably put this one close to the Rams. Rams in Detroit, both away teams, both favored. I'd put them still as the 2 best bets of the week.
I think the only concerns I have about this game are the Detroit record in Green Bay. That's one of them. And then will Aaron Jones be like amazing like he was last week? Those are the only 2 concerns I have. But besides that, I don't have I could even prove that second one won't really happen. Last week, the Detroit Lions did pretty well against a pretty good running back in Le'Veon Bell. So I don't think that's going to happen the same way. We'll talk about the Saints maybe a little bit here, but just the Saints haven't been good against the run, even looking at their stats. I'm going to talk about them in a little bit, but I just don't see how Green Bay is going to be able to win this game. I think Matt Stafford, statistically, over the past 5 games he's played against Green Bay, has thrown about 280 yards against the secondary. That's pretty solid. And I really like what I've seen from Marvin Jones lately. Golden Tate is healthy and back. Their offensive line is okay right now, but Matt Stafford made some amazing plays against a good defense in the Steelers. This Green Bay defense is basically the same scheme, but just not as talented. And I like you said, I don't see how Brett Hundley is going to be able to go stride for stride, point for point, possession for possession with Matt Stafford. I just don't see that happening. I think the Lions are a good team that's unfortunately played a tough schedule and have been ripped off in a couple of games that they could have won. So I think that the Lions do prove that they are a team that's going to be in the contention for the playoffs in this game by winning it fairly comfortably and winning in a spot that they usually don't win in. So yeah, I like this bet a lot. Like you said, 3 points for a field goal, even if it comes down to that, which I don't think it will. So yeah, I think the Lions got this one pretty good. I have 2 extra bets here, and I was speaking about the Saints, which I have Tampa +7. Now, I really do like the Saints. I think they are a contender in the NFC, but I think Tampa Bay, and typically the Saints and Tampa Bay play really good games. They typically are very close. And I think Tampa Bay, a lot of credit hasn't gone towards their offense, which has been able to move the ball. They are 4th, I think, in total yardage this year, and the Saints are 2nd. And it's not been like the Saints. The Saints have been able to be a little bit better on defense, but it's not like they're really slowing anyone down. They're kind of playing better in the red zone, playing better with turnovers. So that's been kind of their recipe on defense. But I think that this is going to be a shootout in the Dome. I just think 7 points is going to be a little bit too much. And this is Tampa Bay's season here. If they lose this game, they're completely done. They are a team that's desperate. They need this win. And I think Tampa Bay is going to go out there. I think Doug Martin will be able to run the football. Jones was able to do it last week. I think that might keep Breeze off the field a little bit. And I just see this game being really high scoring that could go either way because the Bucs are so desperate to win this one. So that's one of my other bets. And my other bet is the Denver Broncos +8. Like you said, I just think Vitae there on the tackle is going to have some issues. I think with whoever they put there, they have three incredible pass rushers.
But the one thing was so Von Miller plays the left side or left side.
Von
of the
Miller,
defense.
they switch. Von Miller,
but he normally plays because Lane Johnson was talking about that. Like Lane Johnson will be going against Von Miller the whole time. Yeah, he likes to rush like this inside, like getting that inside arm and then going. Barrett's gonna be good. But what we've seen is Vitae is. The one thing about Vitae, he's more competent than other backups I think we've seen. Like, I'll take Vitae and some of those guys that they were putting out in Seattle any day.
It's Seattle.
No, but I'm saying like now, everything
basketball high school player.
But everything's changed now. Obviously, Dwayne, they have their offensive lines coming together, and I do think they're starters, and without injuries, they can have a defensive line. But I think Vitae has been somewhat competent at that position. I think we're going to see a little maybe bit of two tight ends.
I think this defense matches up perfectly with your offense. I just think like Denver could play any style and play any team. It almost seems like they're matchup proof on defense. They're so good. They can stop the run. They can stop the pass. There's no like real receivers that scare them, I don't think. I think Talib, even though if he's taken a step back, he is the perfect body frame and type of corner to cover Alshon Jeffrey. Chris Harris is a great slot corner to cover Aguilar. The one thing that you guys will have to try and figure out is how you're going to move the ball with your tight end, Zach Ertz. I think that's going to be a big matchup for you guys.
We're going to use a little more two, maybe sometimes three tight end sense, right? Because Trey Burton can run and catch the ball. Plus, they're going to use Selleck probably more as helping Vitae out because he's obviously Ertz can't block the shit. So
I just think, with Shane Ray back and then Barrett and then Vaughn, I just think this is going to be a closer game. And I don't think Brock Osweiler is going to go out there. And as much as we say how crappy Brock Osweiler is, at least he won't go out there and pretend he's Aaron Rodgers like Trevor Siemian and try and make like ridiculous passes that he can't make. And Emmanuel Sanders is back this week, which should help a little bit. They were able to run the ball last week, even though I don't think they'll be very successful on offense. But I just think this game is going to be real. I just think this game is going to be grinded out, tough football. And I think the Eagles will win this one. But to me, I think 8 points just might be a little bit too much in a game where this is, the Broncos fighting for their season. If the Broncos lose this, they're done. They're done skis. And I just think, that has a lot to play in this. So, and also the Broncos are a type of team. The Broncos are a type of team where they're like, 7-1 Eagles. We need to show out right now. Like, that's to me what the Broncos are.
Maybe, but you could say that they've needed to do that every week and they haven't done it, right? So, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
They've needed to show up every week and they haven't done it.
I just think their defense is like that. They rise to the challenge.
No, true.
When it comes to
and I'm just saying, I think this is going to be a defensive battle because I think the way the Eagles defense has been playing, they're going to do the exact same thing, and it's going to be tough. Osweiler is going to have to get away from a lot because I think that defensive line is going to be on Osweiler a lot. But like you said, 8 points is way too much, especially with that defense against this offense. It's tough. So
and you know what? If the Broncos end up keeping this close, I'll probably bet on the Broncos next week against my Patriots. Because it's probably going to be ridiculous spread, and the Patriots always play like crap against the Broncos in Denver. Yeah. So,
no, and we'll see because what was that game? What was that game last week? Totally blanking.
Denver versus Kansas City.
Against Kansas City, yeah. I'm still not sold though. Like Hunt was able to move the ball somewhat. You know what I mean? Like, and we'll see. We got a new running back. I don't know if you guys heard. So we'll see we'll
Which,
see
by
what
the
happens
way,
there.
I'm not sold on that trade, bro. I understand it was a 4th-round pick.
It's like you say with Gillislee, it didn't cost us anything.
No, yeah, it won't hurt you, but I just don't think it's gonna like. Some people think it's gonna be like, oh my god, it's gonna take you to the next level.
No, I don't think that. Peterson doesn't do that, I just think everyone's besides Wentz, everyone's just a decoy, man.
Oh, okay.
He's
okay.
like I'm just saying like what you saw him like regardless. Yeah, he might, but it's like people are saying injuries this year, which kind of hurt him, but like he ran for 1,200 yards last season. You know what I mean? Like it's like he's only
3 games were like 200 yards. He got like 600 in like 3 games.
Well, I'm still saying that's still impressive, right? Like I don't know, like that's still impressive to me. It's like he rushed for over 1,000 yards, and he's only like 25 years old.
Sure. We'll see. Maybe
we got him for a 4th-round pick, dude. We can't find a 4th-round pick running back like.
No, I agree with you. I think it was good for the pick.
And we had 3 4th-round picks. So, and that 4th came from I think a trade down or something. So it's like Howie Roseman's been trading like a crazy man, because at the end of the day, we barely had to give up anything to move up to get Carson Wentz.
True. Okay, let's get to these comments. Those are all my picks and our picks. So Baltimore plus 3.5, Rams -4, Colts plus 6.5, Detroit -2, Tampa plus 7, Denver plus 8. And you also have Oakland -3.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Some comments. If I were an Eagles fan, I would be afraid of the Vikings and Seahawks the most because their defensive lines. Also, isn't it funny that when the Texans find a competent quarterback, he gets injured? I find it's funny that when they get a competent quarterback, their defense is crap.
Yeah. No, and that's what I said. Like, well, we were just saying Saints, Cowboys, Vikings. I said I would be scared of the Vikings defense, but I think offensively, I think our defense is good enough to stop them, and that's why I put Seattle kind of more scared of Seattle, because they have a great defense. Plus, I wouldn't want to go against Seattle's offense.
I understand Wilson over Case Keenum.
Exactly.
Even though I think the players around, I guess that's a toss-up.
It's just tough because
it's a toss-up.
We've never seen that receiving core without Russell Wilson. You know what I mean?
And that's a toss-up. I think the Vikings' 2 receivers are better than the Seahawks, but I think like with Jimmy Graham and with their 3rd guy, and with I don't know, the run game is not there. Yeah, I think even the Vikings' run game without Cook is better.
No, and the one thing I'll say is, like, if I was a Seahawks fan, yeah, I'd think Paul Richardson, I'd think Doug Baldwin are great, but I don't know how they would do on other teams and other systems. But that's easy to say because they're not. And I'm from Vancouver, so I hear it all. Like, Paul Richardson's like an unbelievable great receiver. Yeah, I guess, but I haven't really seen that much of. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Rashae Caldwell was also a great receiver for New England. So,
and I'm still not sold on like Tyler Lockett being a top receiver. I don't know. It's just they do well with that offense because of. I think most of it is people trying to stop the run, and then Wilson having a good arm, and I think Wilson probably has been more accurate at times this season than he has. Like, some of the balls he puts on a string on fades, one-on-one fades, like right into the hands of receivers is unbelievable. But I think it's good for Wilson that he can move around, because I think he creates. I like to see the numbers of what his numbers are when he's on the run to in the pocket.
Kev Jollywood Gaming says, or Kev Jollywood Gaming and Steelers Nation, they're just going back and forth on this love fest that they have here, that the Seahawks and Steelers are going to play in the Super Bowl. So there you go. They're talking about all the matchups we're going to see in Super Bowl 52. What else we got? Mitch looks like Spence off of King of Queens. Who's Spence? and King of Queens. I saw that show a couple times. I don't know enough. And AC looks like Kevin James. I don't think that's true.
I'll take that.
I don't think that's true.
I don't mind that. Like, have you seen the guy in movies? He seems to get all the ladies.
He does.
What's
that movie?
Selma Hayek in the one when he becomes a UFC fighter. That's actually underrated. Here Comes the Boom. Like, he was in that Zookeeper.
That was an inspirational movie.
Yeah,
Hitch?
That's a great movie.
Was it Hitch?
Yeah, like, dude, just solid. Just he's got a good list.
Mall Cop?
I can't remember Mall Cop, but I remember in like this movie Zookeeper, he had like Rosario Dawson. Like, he's got like pretty solid list that like people believe that he actually can get that quality of a woman, which is great.
He's always like that guy in the movie that can never get the good looking girl, and then at the end he gets the good looking girl.
Oh, it's the greatest.
Okay, so that's our picks this week. Week number 9, Gridiron Gamble, our NFL betting show here on the Bottom Line View. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more NFL content. Tonight, the Stardom and Situm will be out, and hopefully my power rankings will be out as well tonight or tomorrow. We'll see about that. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and tomorrow at Sunday AM as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to be on that show because I have to like go back to the Apple store in the mall and check and get my phone fixed. So we'll see. But Dylan and Kev will for sure be on there. Thanks, guys, for watching. Mitch, AC,